Good morning, everyone, and morning, Mukundan. Thank you very much for joining us. We have an extremely full room and an extremely diverse room, which I'm very proud of. And we've kicked off the morning with some great set of discussions and also looking at some fantastic innovation that is happening in India for the world. So, perfect time to have this conversation with you. And I'm going to kick it off first, Mukundan. I'd recently read you talking about how the Indian economy is likely to double in the next 10 years. While that's something we all agree with, what you said that was very interesting was that this would happen if we can build capacity in new economic areas. And I think that's key, and that's something many people forget. We often believe status quo will get us there. I don't believe status quo will get us there. I think we have to think different. So can you talk a little bit about what are some of these areas that you think we should disrupt in, we should participate in, and which of these excite you the most?
Firstly, thank you, Debjani, for having me with all of you. My sincere apologies. I just had to pull out last minute because it's extremely difficult to travel in time so fast between two geographies. I think that's a real challenge. Hopefully, some technology will allow us to do the time travel as we've seen in some of the science fiction movies. So, really delighted to be with all of you, and it was a great interest and for me to also hear about the innovations which India is spearheading. But let me just backtrack a bit about what we are seeing in the world. We are seeing about 4 transitions happen. Firstly, I think there is broadly what we call as a geostrategic transition. We all know that there is a bit of a realignment of supply chain, whatever you want to call. The second transition is a demographic transition. Around the world, there's a demographic transition. Some countries are aging, some countries still have young talent. So I think it's going to play to the benefit of India, at least if we play the cards right. Then there is a digital and AI transition. We've got room full of people, and nasscom probably is at the right and center of that whole change, which we're going to talk about. And lastly, sustainability transition, and you heard the last set of innovations, and many of them focused on sustainabilities. So really, we are looking at these 4 transitions, and there is opportunity in all of them. If we do even let's say a job which we are capable of growing at about 7% or so on an average, we probably may do even better. I think doubling should not be an issue for the Indian economy, more so with opportunities which are in completely new areas. And when I say new areas, for example, when you look at sustainability, the huge benefit we have is that we are not rewiring our economy. We are not sort of bringing down something which is not sustainable and building sustainable solution. We actually are building afresh because 80% of India is still not being built, and that 80% which is still not being built is what we are building, and that we can build ground up in a very sustainable way, ground up by embracing digital and AI in those solutions to make it more effective and more efficient. So that's the big opportunity for us. And really in many areas we need capability. We have inherent starting point of the capability, but in many areas we have to build capability and capacity both. So that I would say represents a big opportunity and way forward for all of us. Whether it's been the area of new materials, whether it be in the area of let's say new processes which we need to put in place, whether it be in place of new equipments, machinery, all these I think are yet stories to be told and businesses to be built.
Yeah, no, all of them are extremely important areas, I think, for India to look at. Let's talk a bit about the business of sustainability. And by the way, Mukundan, congratulations on the agreement that you've just signed to set up India's first gigafactory for lithium-ion batteries, if I'm not wrong, in the state of Gujarat. When you're talking about sustainability, I know you've talked a lot about the EV potential and energy potential in India. Can you go a little deeper into the specific areas that you think are a must-do for India?
So clearly, I think in terms of sustainability, Tata Group has taken a big leap forward. For example, if you look at our power company, it has pivoted 100% to renewable. And I think our way car company has also taken big strides and is actually a pioneer and a forerunner in electric vehicle. And really, the group has set up a new company called Agratas, which is going to be spearheading the lithium battery revolution in India and for energy storage. So these are all facets of the energy transition, which is subset of sustainability transition, which you're seeing. For us, sustainability on the environment side actually has three broad vertical pillars. One is the whole issue of climate and carbon, where I think the energy transition is playing out. Second issue is on the material place, where I think the circularity is going to play a very important role.
Yeah.
And circularity means a new way of looking at materials, new way of looking all the consumption which we do. And lastly, it's going to be biodiversity, which is I think something very important for us to preserve the biodiversity of planet Earth. India is, if you broadly look at the government's own plan and document, I think the whole let's say the plan about spearheading, pivoting to solar, pivoting to microgrids. You take every piece of the energy profile of this country. I think we are making big strides. The new biofuel policy, the International Biofuel Alliance on the other side, which is to use bioresources of the country, I think again is going to play out as a big opportunity. So in this space, new businesses are getting created. New opportunities are coming, and I think broadly I would say that we are going to benefit from this huge shift. If you want to take a logical approach to what kind of buckets to put them in, I think one important bucket is to start by saying what can we sort of improve efficiency with. So there's a whole element of efficiency improvement, smart factories. I think those things will sort of lay out smart homes. That they're going to sort of make us more efficient in what we already consume. Then there is a replacement issue wherein we are going to replace some of the older assets with newer assets, which will be more sustainable. For example, you've seen a great example of that in electric, because if you look at electric lighting has moved more and more towards LED lighting, away from incandescent lights. So I think that's a big shift in technology. Similarly, you will find that shift happening in almost all the places. And lastly, building a new, which is completely sustainable, which is what government has announced a plan of 500 gigawatts of solar, and increasingly you're going to see a combination of solar, hydro, and wind, and then the hybrid power, and then also the comeback of the nuclear power in smaller and modular reactors. They will all play out in terms of energy transition. And this shift also means we need new materials, new chemistries, new solutions. So it's an exciting time for all of us who work in the field of technology, engineering, manufacturing.
Amen, cannot agree more. But this shift also needs one more thing. I think it needs a new kind of thinking. It needs a new kind of leadership. When you're trying to build out these new areas, and that's the theme of today's discussion, summit, it's pretty much impossible to imagine success if you have a catch-up strategy. You have to think differently. I would love to get your perspective on this, Mukundan, in terms of how is leadership evolving for India and for all of us, for the industry, to really play in these new areas and play the disruptor's role versus catch-up role?
So, Debjani, in my view, I think in many areas we still have to build capability. So, I think we should also be, while we do a role of disruptor, we should be humble enough to say that we are also learning in the same process. And I think it's important that, because these are industries where we are today seeing maybe version 2 or Gen 1 or Gen 2 version of the solution. And in about 10 years' time, maybe there's a Gen 7 or Gen 8 of the solution which will come, which disruptor can come from anywhere else. I mean, and we can be the disruptor too. So when you take the example of fuel cell, for example, from where we started with respect to PEM cells to where we are today with respect to some other more interesting materials, interesting solutions, which we are coming to the table in terms of which have better efficiency. I think it's going to constantly push the envelope in terms of the solution efficiencies, and I think that's what science is all about. And in some areas we will have advantage. In some areas we will certainly have to partner with countries, which is why this whole era, as it is unfolding, it is not one country is going to be winning. So, which is why this whole geostrategic shift, which I spoke about, where we have to have multiple partnerships, is very, very important. Some of the materials we may need may be lying in some other country, which we need to get access to. Our products may need to travel to multiple countries where we need access to. So again, while we have seen localization as one theme, but there is also interconnectedness which will emerge as a theme, because no one part can really be finding the solution for the world. So there will be companies, and I think to think of only large companies acting as disruptor would be a very much kind of this disruption could happen in new startups, new ecosystems which are getting built. So being part of a company which is established and has a larger footprint, we are also on the lookout to not just doing everything internally, but also looking at some of the ideas emerging from universities, from students who are coming out with fresher ideas, supporting them to take them to higher level of, let's say, maturity, from TRL3 to maybe take it to TRL6 or 7, and then to see whether we can may take it commercial. So we all have to be open to having a new mindset. Access to capital has become much easier now, even though while we say that there's a funding problem, there is a interest rate problem. I think these are temporary in my view, but for good ideas, I think funds and capital is still available. So it is basically a combination of talent and market coming together and spotting the right solution and taking it to the customers and consumers. And in some cases, it may be established companies which will play a role. In many areas, it may be new companies with new startups which are going to play a role. And for me, the example which I normally give is, if you look at biotech, one of the solutions which we have to address the food problem, or let's say the food needs of a growing country like India, we will certainly need to lean on biotech a lot more. And we ourselves could not have built this entire capability. So we actually went and acquired a startup in Bangalore and brought them on board along with the founder. That has proved to be a far better approach for in some of the newer areas where we are able to sort of integrate them into the company, give them the ecosystem and the umbrella of a larger company to take even bolder bets. Maybe that's a combination which will work for us. But in many areas, as I said, in the area of biotech, in terms of AI, in terms of digital, in terms of new materials, there will be new companies, new competition. India has an opportunity. It all depends on how we play together as one team to embrace that opportunity.
Collaboration, and I think I absolutely agree with the way you summarized it. We need an open mindset. Innovation is a very humbling experience. You have to fail many, many, many times in order to succeed. And I think that willingness to learn, that resilience to get back on your feet, the willingness to partner, collaborate, everything you talked about becomes so important. And yes, I think innovation does not belong to the it's no more a big boys play. It's even the landscape is getting disrupted, where you have someone, Srinath from Agnikul, completely disrupting the space category. Mukundan, I'm just changing gears a little bit, but today when you talk to any company, be it manufacturing, healthcare, banks, whatever, they are all either in the process of becoming digital companies, or they have become digital companies, and also grow. And again, it comes back to mindset. They are thinking differently as they go through this journey. So as every company today has to, I think it's a success imperative, becomes a digital company. In your mind, how do you see the partnership between traditional tech and vertical companies evolve? um, is it gonna lose relevance? It's gonna get even more relevant, or it's gonna completely change shape?
So, Debjani, I think you raise a very important issue. I think data is the biggest source of strength for companies going forward, and I think data in every sense. It is about the customer data, market data, operational data. It's about our innovation data in the lab. I think and the ability of digital and AI to support the whole analysis and bring insights out of the data which we may be sitting on is something which companies have to embrace more and more. And uh, really, I want to say that we are at the start of this revolution, and the way we are approaching it is to create use cases in each one of these areas, and then work with companies which have capability. And we certainly don't have we are a manufacturing company. We don't have internal capability in let's say video analytics and stuff like that, and we do bring them on board. Some of them are established companies, some of them are startups, and give them an opportunity and environment. And once the use case sort of is, then we go and deploy that horizontally across the company. Take a simple area of safe operations. I think just the fact that you can now put a good quality camera at a very low cost, because those cameras are available on every helmet of a worker, means
Yeah.
we can almost get the data of what each worker is doing, how safe the person is in a plant. But it's inhumanly impossible for someone sitting at a TV screen to monitor everybody.
Yeah.
It needs to run on an AI engine, because you get 3,000 feed in. And so the AI engine can probably sort out, which of the workers are probably going to get to slightly unsafe zone, so that messages can be sent to them or to their supervisor to protect their workmen. So these are things which we are now getting new use cases in the area of safety, in the area of operations, in terms of quality control. You pick every area, I think. The combination of ability to sort out what we call as unstructured information, data, and video. When you put all that together, it's a real powerful tool which manufacturing companies are embracing now. Maybe we are late start. Spoke about banks. Maybe they had embraced it much earlier than us. But I think but the adoption is also fairly rapid, because the efficiency gains are massive. We had done a digital twin of one of our operations a couple of years ago as a first start. And I want to say that a yield improvement of 4%. 4% is quite a bit in chemical industry when you talk about yield improvement. We had it in the first go and first run. So,
Wow.
and speaking to my workmen, because initially there was a view that, the workmen may think that this is going to sort of reduce the need for workforce. They immediately got it. In fact, one of them said that maybe we should have started this journey early, because if we become more efficient, we can compete in marketplace, we can grow the company, we can get more people jobs. So I think people are getting it now, that it is about the whole issue of more for less. At the same time, more customer satisfaction, more employee engagement, the multifaceted approach to embracing digital. And one of the things which tech companies can do for manufacturing companies is to constantly keep engaged, and then tell, without naming confidentiality or other elements, what new use cases are coming up. Because exposure to new use cases are very, very critical for us to sort of test them out in our operations and extend it. There is already a lot of cooperation between manufacturing companies internally through, for example, we've got Indian Chemical Council, where we sort of share some ideas and thoughts on how we sort of each company can help through its own experiences. And we have to learn and sort of move forward on this issue. The danger for India is that if we don't embrace this fully, we'll be left behind in the the global supply chain, because the global supply chain is also becoming very much linked up in a very tight-knit digital embrace.
I absolutely cannot agree more. I think the resilience part, or India's resilience part, depends a lot on our ability to frankly control and influence the supply chain as much as we can. And the role of technology and the role of the tech industry, I think, will continue to go strong. But it's interesting you said that the industry needs to think of new ways to bring value. When you talked about use cases, I think that becomes extremely important for. I mean, it's an opportunity to sort of reimagine even the tech industry and how we bring value to our partners. I think that process has to be done, and I do hope that, especially with AI coming into play, and now with generative AI and the ability to add that intelligence layer across processes, if we can harness that, especially in manufacturing. India has long dreamed of becoming a manufacturing superpower, and we still haven't fully leveraged that potential, or been able to unlock that potential. You think we have a chance now with the new tech? Of course, if we can build the capabilities, that is key. But you think we have a chance with tech disruption and AI?
I think we are uniquely positioned. So I want to say that one thing about India is that India can prove an optimist right, and also sometimes a pessimist right, and we got to who we are. But
Yep.
Fundamentally, I think at this point, when I mentioned about those four transition, the geostrategic transition actually is a big positive for India, because it is playing to India's advantage. The second one, demographic, again, I can only tell you the access to talent and workforce. We struggle in most geographies, but in India, we are still able to get the best of workforce and talent. And I think that's a big plus for us, because without talent, without workforce, we really can't build beyond what we, and grow fast. And then you bring in this layer of sustainability where new materials are going to come. I think we can build. The three things which I continue to highlight within our industry forum, which we need to sort of focus on. One is, we need to focus at this point on scale. We
Yeah.
cannot build small, we need to build scale, which means it has to be not just for 1.4 billion consumers. Sometimes it has to be three or four, twice the size of what our country needs, because we also have a potential to take the material out of India. The second is about standards. So scale, standards. I think we need to comply to all international standards. We cannot say we will have a different standard here, whether it be labor standard, whether it be a product standard, whether it be a standard on environment. I think we need to start saying that we will take the world's best standard and then adhere to those standards. And lastly, I think the whole issue of skills, how we build new skills in our team. So if you say that what are the three things we need to focus as an industry, I'm speaking more from chemical industry. Scale, standard, and skills is what we are engaged in, and the rest of the things are all
I think, Mukundan, that mantra pretty much applies to every industry, even to the tech industry. And I'm going to open it up for one or two questions for Mukundan, so do think about it. But my one question to you is, as we talk about talent and skills, the talent shortage has thankfully done one good thing. It's not fully removed as yet, but it's lessened the filters that many companies have towards what good talent looks like. I think we can't afford that anymore. We can't afford to say, okay, good talent looks like this, right? We have to really go out and embrace good talent, whatever the gender or anything else. And the tech industry, we are tremendously proud of the way we have embraced inclusion. Miles to go before we sleep, but great progress. Now, the manufacturing sector has lagged behind traditionally, and as today's theme goes, catching up is not an option. It has to figure out a way to disrupt. So any thoughts on how you can bring in inclusion into manufacturing and similarly other traditional sectors?
Yeah, so you raised a very important point. I think manufacturing has been a laggard in this issue, and we are not shy of admitting it, and we need to sort of be addressing, doing whatever we can to fix it. The first issue is to make sure that we create the environment for everyone to thrive, and that then goes to the heart of how you define inclusion. I think I'm glad that you took the word inclusion and didn't say diversity, because inclusion creates the environment
Yeah.
for bringing in diverse workforce. So a lot of changes have happened. Access and let's say ability of us to go and get young talent at entry level is tremendously more now. For the first time, I think in India, the undergrad education at that level, there are more women in undergrad programs now than men.
Yeah.
I think that's a change, big shift which has happened. For last 2 years, I can tell you, for at least from Tata Chemicals, our graduate engineering program has more women GETs than men now. And it is not by design, it's happening on its own. So while we've changed our, let's say, approach to colleges and where we go, but it's something which is very heartening to see the numbers are shifting. Really, by the time another 10-15 years happens, I think this should even out more or less. Our real issue is the middle and top layer, where I think we still don't have diverse workforce, and we need to address it. And some of that has to be done through lateral hiring, which our teams are working on. But clearly, the manufacturing sector and what government has done is very, very important. That it has now opened out 3-shift operation for women, which is a very big plus, which was one of the key asks the manufacturing sector was pushing hard. Of course, the companies have done all the safeguards to make sure that the work environment is safe and prepared the workforce for diversity and inclusion, so that everybody embraces it and everybody knows what is the right kind of culture to build. And really, it's an area which we need to, because we can't let 50% of the talent not be part of the new India which we are building.
Amen. It's like going to war with just 50% of your army. So, and I'm so glad you picked on the word inclusion, Mukundan, because very often we make the mistake of just talking diversity, and diversity without inclusion does more harm than good. In fact, it's absolutely useless. So I'm really glad that you're talking both, and so glad to hear what you're saying about the industry. Any questions for Mukundan from the audience? If you can, just put your hand up and we'll get you the mic. Anyone? Yes, please. Please introduce yourself very quickly and then the question. Just wait till we get your mic so he can hear you. Yeah.
So I'm Mahesh Kumar More, leading sustainability at Mercedes-Benz. Of course, since last 3-4 years, we are taking a huge leap in sustainability initiatives. But if we can induce this motivation at university level, we will win the young blood in that direction. So as nasscom, maybe are we thinking in that direction to have this kind of initiatives included in syllabus?
So I'll pose the question to Mukundan first. So Mukundan, your thoughts? How do you take sustainability to the young people?
I want to tell you, the young of today are actually more wired for sustainability than all of us. I can only say that my son once, when I asked him about car ownership, he says, why should I? So this may come as a bit of a surprise for the auto industry. He believes in shared ride in any case. I mean, so it's a very different world. The youngsters who join us, for example, have actively played a massive role in changing our mind. I can only tell you, a few years ago, a GET walked in, and as she was going out of my room after, she sort of turned back and said, why is a plastic bottle in your room? So I said, oh my goodness. I mean, and they notice all these small little things which we may take for granted. So I really think the world is a better place because youngsters are holding us accountable, and they're also holding us accountable to be more sustainable. And I think as leaders, the least we can do is to listen to them and take the good points of inputs and insights they're giving us to move forward. I think schools and colleges are doing fine, but we can look at syllabus. I think today's syllabus, the new education policy, if you look at it, sustainability is right at the center of what they are embracing and what they are including in the curriculum as the overall at various levels is concerned.
So Mukundan, my last question to you. We are now on a high, celebrating the success of Chandrayaan, celebrating the success of New India. As we are fast approaching India at 100, what is that big vision that you have, or what is that one dream that you have that you would love to see us achieve?
So, really speaking, I think it goes back to the fact that there are broadly 4 transitions, which I said. If you can navigate through these 4 transitions and come out as one of the more successful and happy nations, as we call it, I think it will be a great achievement for us. And that is going to come by doing everything very differently than what world has seen before. For example, nowhere in the world are you going to see an intersection of frugality and innovation. And I'm glad you picked on Chandrayaan, because that sort of brings out that while you don't dilute quality and standard, but at the same time you can innovate and innovate at a number which is which can take everybody by surprise. And that disruption is going to do 2 things. One is it is going to make that innovative idea very competitive. It is also going to increase the access of that innovation to more people.
Yeah.
I think if you have to address the inequity in the planet as one issue, I think this combination of frugality and innovation is what probably is going to drive us there. And India is right there, positioned to be the solution provider. And all of us who are in the room and those who are outside the room have a unique opportunity, and by playing that, I think we will really, really contribute to well-being and sustainability of the planet as a whole.
Thank you, Mukundan. Thank you so much for taking the time, for the fantastic insights that you brought to the table, and the 3 S's, right? Skills, scale, standards, that is needed to rewire not just the manufacturing, but also I think the tech industry going forward. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks all. That was really great to hear from him. And as NASSCOM, we do have a dream for India at 100, and I think we saw a little bit of that this morning, that by the time India does reach 100, the innovation, or the I in innovation, must stand for India. And we, you and I, all of us, have to make that happen. I think failure is absolutely not an option for India. And since we have dedicated this to ISRO, do stick around. I have a very special guest and a very dear friend of mine joining us at 5:30. Nandini Harinath. You would have seen her if you watched, I'm sure all of you watched the Chandrayaan launch. You would have seen her on TV because she's one of the key pillars of ISRO and one of the key women who were behind, or one of the key scientists who were behind the launch of Chandrayaan 3 and many more missions. So she'll be joining us at 5:30. Look forward to talking to you then.
For more content on tech and leadership, subscribe to NASSCOM YouTube channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.